Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest? Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
Hey, everybody, and it is a Monday night and a stormy Monday night outside the studio here. Lost power a little bit. Wasn't quite sure we're going to make it on or not, but we're here. And I've got a guy tonight joining me that I ran across him on TikTok, actually, and then messaged him through Instagram, and we got connected. I've been listening to his music, digging it. I love what it is, and his name is Cody Bolden. He is from Georgia and Alabama, I guess. Wouldn't that be kind of the way to say that?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Kind of splitting time between the two growing up, huh?
That's right. Yeah. I was born in Alabama. My dad still lives there, but I grew up in Georgia, and I'm in Georgia now, just north of Atlanta.
Are you still up around the Canton area? Or you?
I am. Yep. Yeah, I live in downtown Canton, right here as I sit.
Oh, all right. Wow. Right there in the metro.
Yeah.
So I was looking over your bio and everything earlier. Now, first, I do want to encourage everybody, if you have any comments, be sure to hop on and let us know on the Facebook page, and we'll try to get that back to you. Or you can do it on YouTube, either one, and we'll get all those. So if you have any questions for Cody, just let us know. Let's talk a little bit about you kind of split your time with Alabama and Georgia growing up, and I'm sure there was a lot of artists that you listened to on either side that may not have been so traditional. Kind of, what was the music going on at home when you were growing up?
Yeah, so my dad has always been a country guy and kind of Southern rock. So he was Lynyrd Skynyrd, but also, Hank Williams Jr., Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings. And my mom's a lot more folksy and bluegrass. So as a matter of fact, when Oh Brother Art Thou came out, that soundtrack is probably the soundtrack of my youth. Every song on there. Neither one of them ever played instruments, but music has just kind of always been around. Me and my childhood, it wasn't until I got a little older that I started playing myself.
Right. How did you get into playing if the music instrument, there wasn't a lot of instrumentation around the house? How'd you get into that?
I always liked it. I like the idea of, like these just going out, to a bar or dinner and somebody's just there with a guitar playing solo. I always kind of like the idea of that. Just an acoustic setting, being able to just play songs. And I always wanted to be able to do that for myself. When I was 26, my wife bought me a guitar for Christmas because I'd always talked about it. But it was one of those things, it was just like, yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. But I would never buy a guitar for myself. So that's kind of what really kicked it off.
So you were kind of a late bloomer with the guitar.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Was that very hard to pick up at that age?
Yes. I mean, it still is. I don't consider myself a great guitar player now. I can I can bang some strings around and make it sound like a chord. But I still have a hard time with bar chords. I should be learning them a lot better. But over the last 2 to 3 years, I've been playing electric guitar, mostly because I play country music and we're out late and we're in bars where everybody's loud. And I could pay less people and get a louder sound with me playing electric guitar.
Right. What size band do you normally run with? Are you guys a 3-piece, a 4-piece?
It kind of depends on the show. Now, like around here, if we're going to go out and play a bar gig from 9 to 12, we're usually a 3-piece, sometimes a 4-piece. Just because, like I said, less people is less payout. But we do, I got a great group of guys that I play with, so we get all the way up into even like a 5 and 6 piece where we have an organ and a pedal steel and a lead player.
Right.
But mostly a 3-piece or a 4-piece.
Who were some of the artists that kind of shaped you as an artist as you're growing up?
Yeah, growing up would definitely be some of those same guys. I mean, Lynyrd Skynyrd is probably my all-time favorite band. But a lot of the Southern rock stuff, Creedence Clearwater, always the harmonies from the Eagles. But, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Towns Van Zandt, as you kind of dig deeper into those guys, Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash. That's the kind of stuff that if I'm listening to, that's the kind of music that I would think which has really shaped what mine is. Johnny Paycheck, George Jones.
So a lot of the outlaw stuff is kind of the direction that your music is.
It is, yeah, and I think I kind of lean into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I've been listening, and that's kind of what I picked up on a lot of stuff, and I mean, I really enjoy your music. I'm drawn to that kind of stuff, and it's just really awesome, to hear somebody that's. What I like about it is it's real country. It's not this, synthetic pop stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. So not starting until a little bit later on, it was really just, I started playing guitar, and I always kind of liked the idea of writing. I never really wrote songs other than like parody songs. That was, just something to fill time with.
Right.
But, actually getting the guitar out, and it's not until you get into that you find out like, okay, yeah, like, the guys that are singing these songs are cool, but the guys that are writing these songs are even cooler. So it's really cool if you can write and sing your own songs. So I've got a passion for that, and I really enjoy writing music now too.
Right. I think it's funny that you mentioned parody songs, because the one question I want to ask is, did you ever put out an album of just some of the parodies that you did?
No, I haven't yet. Maybe I hadn't been doing it long enough, so maybe it'll come.
That's always the thing I like. I like a good parody song, and working in radio, it always comes in handy when you've got a good parody that's kind of timely and on top of current events and stuff that you can throw on, and but
maybe I'm afraid it'll be the only hit I'll ever have. Maybe I'm afraid of that.
Well, that could be true too. You just never know. But I mean, you're doing pretty well for yourself as far as the listenerships and stuff, from what I've seen. So even if it was, it's probably just going to boost that up, which is a good thing.
I'm in no position to turn down a hit, so I'll take it how I can get it.
I hear you. Plus the fact, if people listen to it, hey, they listen to it. It's all right.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So, as you're progressing through life, as after the age of 26, 27, you start playing the guitar. Is that when you started writing, or were you writing earlier in life?
Not really. I mean, other than, like I said, school projects, when we in like an English class where we had to write poems, things like that. But I always kind of had interest in just putting words together. Alliteration and rhythm and rhyme has always been interesting to me. But it wasn't until I started playing guitar that I really had an excuse to hone that craft a little bit.
Right. Did you, of course, I guess being older, you didn't have to deal with your peers in school or anything, but what about your peers as you're older? Did they kind of think, you're out of your mind, or, this is just going to be a fly by night hobby, or kind of what were some of the thoughts other folks had, even family?
I would say supportive, but it could be that I also had blinders on. I guess that's the beauty of doing it when you get a little bit older, is you just care less about what people think. I say that for me personally, I care less. Maybe you're a little more established in life to where you care less about what people think.
Right. So is music your sole career? Do you have something else that you do, like a day job, or how's that going for you?
Yeah, I'm kind of half and half. So my wife and I own a pie shop. It's called Pie Bar. We sell apple pie and pecan pie. So I'm part-time there. I'm really just a handyman. I've never been a baker. I work the front register, but now I repair refrigerators and reseal floor jams and things like that. So I'm more music than I am a handyman at this point. So I'm kind of part-time and part-time.
Right. And I love it, because where I'm from, the way I was raised, when you say pecan pie, it was always pecan to us. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like tomato. Depends on where you're at. You call it what you want. At the end of the day, it still tastes mighty fine.
Well, we've learned that if you can, pecan pie is one, but you can charge more if you call it pecan pie.
You might not want to give that secret away. It sounds a little bit more elegant, I guess.
That's
I
right.
don't
Yeah,
know.
that's right. That's right.
You know,
You want the pecan price, not the pecan price.
right, right. I'll have to remember that if I ever come into the shop. It's like I want the pecan pie. No, not pecan. I want pecan.
That's right.
That's great. I love that. So, what being a songwriter as well as an artist, which do you feel like is the main draw for you? Do you feel like yourself, are you more of a songwriter and not less of an artist, but songwriting is more what you enjoy doing, or is it more being the artist that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, it's a healthy balance because I really do love going out and playing live shows, and I think it's really important if it's something you want to make a career out of that you should be able to put on a live show. Obviously, all the words and lyrics are very important, but if they never get out for anybody to hear, they're nothing more than that, unless that's just what you want them to be. As far as career goes and lifespan, I would much rather be a songwriter. I don't necessarily want to be Willie Nelson and touring at 90 years old. Now, granted, he doesn't have to; he just does.
Right.
But I would much rather sit at home, write songs, and get some mailbox money.
Right. There you go. Well, you can always come up with another way. Willie did it. So
Yeah, that's that's very true.
for music, so, and probably making a lot more money off of that than his music.
Yeah.
So, as a songwriter, what is one song that you've heard through your life that you just go, damn, why didn't I write that?
Yeah. I would say almost any Merle Haggard song, pick one out of a hat and I would take one of those.
Yeah.
Um, same with Christopherson and Townes Van Zandt. I'm a big fan of Townes Van Zandt. Waiting Around to Die is a big, and Poncho and Lefty is a great song too. So there's a lot of them that I wish I would have written. And that's, maybe I'll steal something from it and write it down the road.
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
That's all we're doing in music anyway.
Right. It's kind of like radio. There's no new ideas in radio. It's kind of the same
That's
way with
right.
music. Nothing new. Something's always borrowed from somebody else.
Yes.
But in music, you have to be careful because it can cost you a lot more than in radio.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
So now you are. I love this quote in here. It's talking about performing original songs about things that are important to you, like bikes, beers, and bullshitting. That is a classic. I should just use that on the Facebook. Just put on there. He just loves writing songs about bikes, beer, and bullshitting.
That's it. I mean, that's the three beers in life, three B's in
Right.
life. It's bikes, beers, and bullshitting. I don't know. I
Right.
mean, that's kind of what it all is. That's the beauty I think of country music is it's this range of emotions where you can live. It's happy, it's sad, it's fun, it's silly, it's all these things. But it presents them in a way that a lot of people that aren't big fans of country music understand, because it's kind of hokey at times, and the beat's kind of slow, but we're talking about real stuff and we're talking about real emotions that real people go through.
Right. Do you feel like that the I guess the direction of country music now is kind of heading a lot more back toward those, that era with Christopherson and Willie and Waylon and Merle and Johnny and all those great guys?
Yeah, I think it's the pendulum effect, right? Where it swings one way really far and then it swings back the other way, then it kind of finds itself somewhere in the middle. Because I think people long for that. I mean, I know a catchy rhythm and a beat in a song is important, and that does grab a lot of people. But there's also something to be said about songs that mean something, and I think people are looking for that in music. Music is something. It's kind of one of those universal things that we all take part in. But it's something really special when you can see yourself in that song.
Right. I think that is the biggest thing right there, where you can connect to that song in a way that you may not, a song that's kind of on the poppy side. Some of those are just ear candy for, uh, and it's no secret. I'm probably not a huge star in Nashville when I say this, but when it comes to the labels, they're starting to turn back to that. You got Zach Bryan right now, you got Lainey Wilson, Luke Combs, some of these, Morgan Wallen and most of Morgan's are kind of on that more traditional, doesn't have a lot of the 808s and all that stuff in there,
Right.
the crazy stuff. But what I like about yours is, like I was listening today, and I couldn't tell you the names of the songs off the top of my head because I was trying to watch a storm behind me and see if I could outrun it. But and but you've got, some good stuff that's got some good steel guitar in it. Too Hot in Here, is that one of them?
Oh, Too Damn Hot.
Too Damn Hot, yeah, that was one. You got got some great, classic instrumentation that just sounds amazing to me, because I'm a fan of those guys. I like Christopherson and Merle and George Jones and Strait and, those guys. And that's kind of the stuff that I like to listen to. If I move into the modern day, the Cody Johnsons and the Zach Bryans and the Whiskey Myers and, fellows like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, a lot of that is not me. It's not me making a conscious effort to do, what's opposite of what country radio would be today. It's really just kind of, this is the kind of music that comes out when I'm making it. And these are the kind of guys that I'm playing with. Because since I didn't grow up in a musical household and I don't have that sixth sense, usually I'll write songs and I write them to an acoustic guitar. And we'll go out and play, usually as like a trio, so my drummer and bass player, and I'll just kick it off and they fall in where, however they feel. So, and that's usually kind of how we build the songs. And then we, as another instrument gets added, they do what comes natural to them. We've got an album coming out here later this year, which is one the first album that I've produced. So I'm just now getting to a point where I'm hearing what I want these songs to be. I kind of know in my head, but there when I first got started, it would just be a reincarnation of like a Waylon Jennings record, because that's all I knew about music. So that's kind of the neat thing about growing and being around it. But yeah, that kind of, I have a perspective of now a 33-year-old guy, and I didn't start really writing songs till I was 27. So a lot of those life experiences had kind of already come. And so when I first started writing songs, they were just there and they kind of fell out because I'd already gone through a lot of that stuff.
Do you feel like because you're at that point as far as in your life that it's like you say, it just fell out, but do you feel that it's easier to do it that way than, say, if you would have started when you were 13, 14, 15 years old?
From a technical standpoint, as far as instruments, I wish I would have started younger. It just, a lot of the guys that I've played with that come from that kind of background can pick up instruments a lot easier, and they can pick up, playing in like a jam session a lot better. They kind of already know those boundaries. And then even from songwriting, I wish that from a technical standpoint that I had a bit of that. But, there's something to be said about coming at it from a different angle too, because like we were saying earlier, it is you're still living within this range of things. There's only these amounts of notes that you can put into a song. So coming at it from a different angle kind of caused me to do some stuff differently than traditionally, a musician would do. And I was just doing I wasn't playing, like just a 1-4-5 or whatever on guitar. I was just kind of playing what sounded okay to my ear based on what my hands were trying to do on a guitar, which kind of opened some other doors as well.
Has any of that, you say it's opened other doors, what kind of doors has it opened up that you've been able to kind of walk through and pick up?
Yeah. Doors in terms of it's not, the first song we ever recorded is called Yonder Way, and it's probably still one of my favorite songs, and it has just a different sound to it because the chord progression is an abnormal progression. It's not one that you would, it's just not G, C, D or a lot of things like, when you're playing. And then that opened up doors because, I was playing with guys for a long time. We were a three-piece with just an acoustic guitar, a drummer, and an organ player. So the keys and organ were filling up all the space, which kind of brought a new sound,
Right.
um, and opened my ears. But I listen to, although the '70s country and the outlaw country is kind of my bread and butter in terms of what I'm listening to. I like a lot of stuff. I mean, Black Pumas, Black Keys, so anywhere from like rock to soul to
Mhm.
funk. I love all of those other influences as well.
If I was to pick up your phone and look at your playlist, what would you say would be the top 5 artists that you're listening to right now?
Yeah. Lynyrd Skynyrd, um, Hank Williams Sr., Black Keys, 49 Winchester, Sturgill Simpson.
Mm. Some really good music in there. A lot of people don't know about. Sturgill's a
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even
He's my modern day influence. I found, meta modern sounds and country music is kind of what I was getting into when I first started playing guitar. And then
mhm,
I got that record before High Top Mountain. And then, he's kind of made this whole circulation since then from rock and roll to bluegrass to kind of, Western waltzes and what have you. Um, so yeah, big fan of Sturgill.
yeah. I got one of his CDs and started play. It was the one that he got the Grammy for, and I listened to it and just man, I think I about wore that thing out
Yeah. Yeah.
because he's just I mean, he's just kind of prolific in the way he does things, and it's so. To me, it's a little cutting edge, so it's like people don't expect that, and a lot of people don't listen to that, which
Right.
it's kind of the big thing for me. I tend to listen to what people normally wouldn't listen to.
Well, and if you're a new fan, you're looking for just an artist that you want to take a ride with. That's the guy. I think he's put out 5 or 6 albums, and it starts
Mhm.
from that very old school country, and then it kind of, you can kind of watch this thing go. So it goes from this old school country to country to I think the one you're talking about is a Sailor's Guide to Earth, which kind of
Yep.
like is this weird go between, and then he does I think it's Sound and Fury, which is kind of like this super rock album. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for him. One, he's a great songwriter, but he's a great musician. But I've got a lot of respect for the fact that that's the music that he was feeling, and that's the direction it was taking him.
Mhm.
And he wasn't just cutting the same album over and over again.
Right. So I mean, you're an independent. You're not signed to a label, anything like that. Um, as an independent artist, what do you feel like is probably one of the biggest obstacles that you have?
Getting on shows. I mean, we would tour now if we could, if we were getting on, but it's getting a foot in the door at these venues, because nobody is vouching for you.
Right.
You're sending your own emails with your own press kit, saying, "Hey, my name's Cody. We play country music. Here's a link to our stuff." But we don't, a booking agent would be amazing at this point in the game. That would just, I know we're playing. I know we're playing great music. I feel I'm confident in the music that we're putting out, and I know that if we got out in front of people, they would enjoy the music that we're playing. But that's also kind of just the name of the game. We're still cutting our teeth as well, so you
Right.
gotta crawl before you can walk, and walk before you can run.
Right. So, I mean, you've played at some stuff in Nashville, uh, like the Tennessee Music and Motorcycle Revival. You played that. You played in Virginia, um, and then some places around Atlanta. Um, where's some of the other places that you played that have kind of I don't know, sparked it in you to say, "Hey, I'd really like to go back to that place," or, you know.
So we just did this past March. We went out to Texas.
Mm.
We weren't official South by Southwest showcasing artists, but we went out anyway. I had
Mhm.
planned a whole kind of run. We did a week out there. So we played in Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and then kind of played Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana on the way out there, and then played a few on the way back. And that was because that was our first time in Austin, first time playing in Texas, and that was big for us because here we don't have the old ice houses where you can play every night of the week. We're
Right,
playing maybe Thursday and then maybe Thursday through Saturday, maybe sometimes on Sunday, but that to me out there, those guys can really like hone their craft by getting out and just doing it.
right,
Um, and I'll be honest with you, every band that I've seen come through Atlanta from Texas is just hot shit because I mean they're out playing and they're doing it. Um, so this past year, this March, going out and playing in Texas, specifically being in Austin during South by Southwest was just a neat thing because it's all of these artists and it's ones that are trying to make something. It's not guys that are already here because they don't necessarily need to be in that game. But
right,
it's all me, guys below me, guys above me that are hungry and we're scratching for it.
right, right. And that's, excuse me, to me, I mean, those are the guys, and I don't mean this in a bad way to anybody that's out there that's, you know, doing it and making it with that. And like I always say, you can take the term success and make it to fit you in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Success to some people is three homes in, Texas, Nashville, and Florida. Florida seems to be a hotbed for a lot of artists nowadays. Or success could be the fact that you played in Austin during South by Southwest, or you were down there and did get to play around that, some. Um, but for you, what do you feel like to be to say that you've been successful? What would that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, successful for me, in terms of like a career and a lifetime, would be to be able to do this until I can't do it anymore, and
Mhm.
support a family doing that. Playing songs, playing my songs, and being able to make a living doing that. Now, granted, all that has its own tier. One thing I've learned so far is you can be really good in this business and never make it, or you can be not as good and still make it.
Right.
It's a lot of some of it is just the way the cards fall.
Mhm.
But just like anything else, it's still hard work, and you can't expect something if you're not out there doing anything. And that's a little bit of a hard thing in the era we're in now, where people see other people go viral and think that you can just sit on your hands and then maybe this video is going to take you somewhere you haven't been. But I don't want that for me. I want to be out, learning the craft, putting on a good live show. And when that call comes, I want to be ready for that call. But that's success, honestly, just being able to do this. I don't need a Maserati in the driveway. I just want to be able to take care of my family and write my songs.
Right. Just make sure you can put gas in the old Ford and
That's
and
it.
food on the table.
That's it. Yeah. I'm 33 now. We just actually, my wife and I, we've been married 10 years. We just had our first. So we had a little girl about a month and a half ago. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. But being a small business owner, you kind of learn what success is to you. I think when you're younger, success may mean something different than it does when you get older. But for me right now, that's what it is. It's a roof over our head, the bills paid, food on the table, gas in the vehicle, and the financial freedom of knowing that's not going to end anytime soon.
Right.
Um, but not excessive.
Right. Yeah, you don't need the three homes in Nashville and Florida and Dallas or anywhere else.
Right.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
Um, That's kind
But
of
if,
me.
but if that's your thing, that's okay too, but I'll sell them and keep that money in my pocket.
Yeah. I'd love to have a home in Nashville, but I would much rather have the $250,000 it's going to cost me for a shack in my pocket.
No kidding.
you know, um, so when you sit down and write a song, I know everybody gets inspired by different things, and it's life events or it's, they saw something. I heard an interview one time with an artist that said, one of his professors at Belmont told him everything is a song. You just have to look for it. But when you sit down to write, where is the majority of your inspiration coming from?
Yeah, for me, it's a little different. So I kind of like tote around these mental, it's usually the title of the song, So,
Mhm.
right now I got one that's wearing last night's whiskey, heavy on my head, wishing I had back half the dumb shit that I said, just that sits here and it just kind of rotates around. It rotates around. Um, I'm not. I'm not super great about sitting down and vetting that out, which I'm trying to get better at, especially if I'm going to say I want to be a songwriter. Sometimes you
Right.
got to put in the elbow grease and just write that song.
Right.
But for me, I'll have at any given time I have 8 or 10 of those kind of rolling around, and they just come. It's something somebody said, something I watched on a movie, and it's not that whole thing. It's just a part of that, and that
Right.
kind of grows. I just recently read a Louis L'Amour, I think Louis L'Amour, book called Utah Blaine, which is just an old Western book. But it kind of sparked up this new song about, being on the run, protecting your property and this kind of stuff. So it just kind of starts there, but it's usually the hook of the song for me. And
Mhm.
it'll sit there, that it could sit there for 3 weeks or it could be sitting there for a year and a half. I try not to let it sit there that long. But I'm trying to get better at the craft of actually writing a song too, because you got to put it down too. You can't. I'm kind of going against and contradict what I'm saying if I just sit on my hands and leave it in there. Sometimes you're going to write them. I may not ever play it out live, but I got to write that song.
Right. Right. You got to make it. I'm not a songwriter by any stretch. I can give you titles all day long, and if you can work off a title and come up with a song, then great. We can work together. And I don't even ask for a word for a third. I'm just looking to help.
Right.
But I mean, I've had some of those that have kind of washed around in my mind, and I've written them down and kind of played with them. But I thought that just sucks. Ain't nobody gonna listen to that. But I have a lot of songwriter friends that I'll pass that stuff off to and say, hey, here's an idea. If you want it, use it. If you don't, no harm, no foul.
Right. Right.
Because I'm not. I mean, I'm just not. I don't have that talent. I mean, I can't come up with the melody for it. I can't come up with the chords. I'm not a guitar player. My music background is I played drums when I was younger, and you can't exactly write a song on drums. I think people have tried, to be honest with you, but it just, to me, I look up to you guys that are the songwriters because it's a very difficult craft to do. When you're even as you're sitting there, it takes a lot longer than 3.5 minutes to write out that 3.5 minute song.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and I'm not huge on going back and revising songs. Some people wait till they get it just so before they
Mhm.
start to sing it out, and I'm not quite that way. I'll get it, and I'll tune on it a little bit, and a year from now, after I've sang a song for a year, I may come back and say, well, this word would have made a little more sense there, but it doesn't stop me from putting it out. And that's kind of the deal too. Is you got to me, especially like. Cutting an album and recording songs allows me to kind of get past. It's kind of like cleaning out the old gas tank. All
Right.
this gas has been in here. It's great gas, but it's starting to smell bad. So we need to burn it off and get some new stuff in here. So that's important to me too. It's important to also record those songs so they're not just sitting in the back of my head as well.
Right now, when we were talking, the way I do the show is I'll play a song, and I wanted to play one of yours, and you gave me a choice, and I kind of went with this one, which is actually fitting for tonight. To be honest with you, you brought that up a while ago, but it's called Whiskey Blues, and I listened to it 3 or 4 times today because I thought, man, it's a little something up tempo, and probably 8 out of 10 times I'll get something a little bit slower from somebody. You don't get a lot of the up tempo stuff for whatever reason.
Right.
But it was a little more up tempo, and I thought, I really liked, and I like the song. I like both of them. I like that, and I like Bad Man too.
Yeah.
But I felt like that this was a really good song. So I want to play that and let folks hear it real quick while they're, tuning in. And then we'll talk about the song coming back after that and just kind of, where it came from, kind of the backstory. All right.
Sure.
All right. Well, here's Cody Bolden, and this is a song called Whiskey Blues. It's on Before Nashville.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought I had it figured out, a dog woman and a half, but she learned me about trusting in your spouse. I put a 12-ounce shell, came home to rest my head, and that's when I found some other dude in my bed. I got the whiskey blues, all because of you. All the miles way round, but now they're all see through. I got the whiskey blues, all because of you. We used to burn from desire, I burn from 90 proof or high. Quite a routine with a brown paper sack, start with a glass of Jim Beam and wash it down with Jack. But as the night rolls on, I find my way to the shop. But when the whiskey's all gone, you still linger on my mind. I got the whiskey blues, all because of you. All the miles were brown, but now they're all see through. I got the whiskey blues, all because of you. We used to burn from desire, now burn from 90 proof or high. Yeah. Whiskey blue, all because of you. All the models were brown, but now they're all see through. I got the whiskey blue, all because of you. We used to burn from desire, now I burn from 90 proof high. Come on with it now. A little more now, what do you say?
All right, that one's called Whiskey Blues. It's Cody Bolden here on Before Nashville. So tell me a little bit about the song. Where'd it come from? Because, I mean, quite honestly, we were sitting here, drink a little whiskey. I don't think there's any blues going on, but
Yeah, no, Whiskey Blues is one of the first songs I had written, maybe the third or fourth song I'd written. So it's got a lot of that old school influence on it. And it's just, it's a tried and true method. Heartache at the jukebox. Your woman did you wrong, and now all these bottles that used to be brown are now all see through, but she helped you get through it.
right. Well, the only bad bottle is an empty one. So
Very true. I got a couple bad ones right now I need to take care of.
yeah, I was telling you earlier, I got an empty bottle and sitting back here, and I had to go get something that looked a little more full just because of the appearance. But it's all theater of the mind, man. Theater of the mind.
Well,
so
it's true.
Your band is called Road Hands.
That's right. Yep. So So the Road Hands. My dad's a pipe fitter by trade. He's always been in commercial construction, like big paper mills and things of that nature. So I went after high school. I went to college, and in the summer times, I'd always be looking to pick up work to help pay for my next year of college and room and board and food and everything else. And he would always be on a job somewhere. He mostly stayed in the Southeast, but he would work shutdowns, which is when you go in, they shut these mills down and do a lot of the work that you can't do when they're running throughout the year. So it's usually for a week or so, maybe only a couple of days at times. But there's kind of this group of tradesmen that run around doing these shutdowns. They make really good money, but they're away from home. And he always called them road hands. A lot of guys with trade, they just call them hands,
Right.
whatever kind of trade they're in. And he called those guys road hands. And as I started playing music, there was a lot of parallels between what, those guys were doing and what we're doing. We're roaming from town to town, out there, playing our trade, staying in these little dirty motel rooms, trying not to spend all the money we made the night before. So anyway, that's where Road Hands came from.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think it's great. I just thought, and even when I first saw it, I thought, wow, that's pretty good. And that was even the name of your first album that you released back in 2021, right?
It was, yeah, Road Hand. Because it's always, yes, that's what it was. We had a song on that one called Road Hand, which is kind of about that lifestyle. It's funny though, nobody ever. Rarely do we get it right. I'm either I've been Cody Bolden, I've been Tony Bolton, I've been Corey Bolding. Those we've been the Ranch Hands. It's never quite right. So we got all these alter egos, and it seems like it's different for each state. So like North Carolina, we're Corey Bolden and his Ranch Hands. Alabama, we're Tony Bolton and the Road Hands. So it really just kind of we'll have to see what we're going to be in Missouri, I guess.
Right. Well, somebody just put this up. Matt Keatle.
Oh, Matt Cato. There it is. Bodie Colden. That was, we did have a band suggestion. It was, and I still may use it down the road, but it was Cody Bolden and the Boldly Cold Ones.
There you go. That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, Dirk Bentley and his alter ego that he has in his band, the Hot Country Nights.
That's right.
They do all like the 90s stuff, that's all, that's kind of where I thought about the parody stuff. That would be good if you did that under a pseudonym,
yeah,
of somebody else, and just did parody songs.
I saw Hot Country Nights at Talladega at the Infield show.
Oh my gosh! Oh, I got to see him up in St. Louis, and right as they got done, actually, I don't think they were a couple of songs in, and the storm blew. For some reason, I track storms. I'm just going to tell you now. So if I'm ever at your show, be ready.
Okay.
But this storm blew in, and I mean, it was blowing rain like sideways, and we're under this huge awning. It's in an amphitheater, and it was not a good night. It was not.
Yeah.
I mean, we were drenched, and my wife and I got separated going back to the hotel, and they took her to the wrong hotel. Then they had to bring her back. And
Oh
like,
yeah, it's a good night for everybody.
yeah, I'm like, what the heck? So it was crazy, but yeah, I mean that would be really good. I think that's great. Now with the first album, now how many albums have you released from the first one till now?
So we've got Road Hand was our first full length album. We did an EP before that had 5 songs on it, and then we did Road Hand. And then since Road Hand, we've released another single, and then this will be our second full length album.
Okay.
So I try and put stuff. It's a hard thing right now because if you talk to people in the industry, they say that you should just constantly be putting out music, which I agree with. But I'm also not a huge fan of the only single method. Where you just put out a new single every 3 or 4 months. I'm a big vinyl guy, and I like to get the full album, put that album on the record player, let it spin, read the liner notes while it's playing. When that side's done, turn it over and listen to the other side and kind of get that full experience opposed to these little 4 minute increments.
Right.
So anyway, that's we've probably got, I guess this you'll have 18 or 25 songs in total that we've released.
Mm-hmm. Do you have you got any of the vinyl out? Have you put anything on vinyl? I know sometimes that's a little cost prohibitive to do the vinyl.
It is, honestly, in my stage of the game, it's cost prohibitive. But since I am a vinyl fan, this next album that's coming out, I'm having some vinyl made for it. So I did a very limited run, but when it sells out, I'll do some more. But it is, I mean, unless you're selling 1,000 units, it costs me about $42 to make the vinyl. So I got to sell one at $50, and that's just it's a tough ask.
Right, very tough sale. Very tough sale. And it's, you got somebody wanting one, so you'll have to tell Josh exactly where he can go get that at.
I'll definitely do it. So they should be in the I was going to release this album in July or August, but we may wait till September because we may put out one more song before we release the full album. So Josh, I got you, brother.
Yeah, there you go. So you don't have to worry about it. And I'm sure another place you could go. I mean, there's always somewhere to find it. So what about right here? Why didn't it show up there? Because I didn't hit save. That's why it was. There we go.
Oh yeah. It's always a fun thing when you can get your actual name as a URL. It's not like Cody Bolden Hot Whiskey 33, .com. So I was pretty proud of that.
Right. I've got another business, this ICBA up here, and I actually got it. And when I went to look for the URL, there's a lot of ICBAs out there, but they're not the same business. And so I scrolled down, and I'm looking at .net and I'm looking at .org, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to find anything. And I ran across .live, which is perfect because it's a booking agency.
Right.
It fits perfect. What better could it be than that? So that's always a cool thing, when you can find that. And when you get your name, of course, you have kind of a unique name that I don't think a lot of people have. or a lot of people, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but that a lot of people are going to go, oh, it's Taylor Swift. Let's just hack her account.
I feel totally disrespected.
I
Look,
know, man. I'm
if
sorry.
I was doing if I was doing a grossing tour like she is right now, my name could be whatever they wanted it to be.
Exactly. They can call me whoever they want. Taylor Swift, 49, 82, 16. I don't care. If I'm making that kind of money, hey.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I actually I saw a video the other day. I think this tour is grossing maybe 1.3 or 1.5 billion dollars. And the amount of semi trucks that are just moving the stage around is unreal.
oh yeah, yeah. I saw her several years ago. I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, was living down there, and my daughter was right when Taylor first started getting big. I mean, she'd been out for a while. She was probably 17, 18. May have been when that the 17 album came out. I think I said the title of one of her albums. And we were in Jonesboro, and we went back and looked, and she had like 8 or 10 semis then. She was coming out with the whole Disney Princess Castle thing.
Right.
And I'm like, good grief. And since then, it's just kept going and going and going, and
Right.
she played it smart. She got out of country. She came back in. Now she's back in. Everybody and their brother wants to see her. But hey, that's the name of the game sometimes. Now the new album, what is it called? The new one the new one that you got coming out. Have you got it named yet?
I do. It's called Keep On Working. And that's kind of the stage I think where I'm at as far as music goes right now and it's kind of what we had talked about earlier, is this idea of you don't get to just sit back and create your own destiny, or I guess you do if you just sit back, but it may not be what you want it to be.
Right.
So it's this idea of just being out there and playing, writing music, playing that music, being able to play it well. But it's not just music; it's anything that you're doing. It's that's where you really find it, is in the grind of stuff. And I found that I really enjoy that. When we when we went to Texas and played every night, there's something about getting tight, and doing that every night. And just kind of honing in on it and doing what you're doing and leaning into what you're doing well. So anyway, that's kind of what this album is about, is keep on working. There's a song on it, Keep On Working. It's a traditional country sound. Got a lot of pedal steel on it, got electric guitar, got some ballads on there, got some slow ones, some fast ones.
Right. Now let me ask you this, going back to Whiskey Blues for a minute, because I'm listening to the vocals and what you're doing in there, and you got that little bit of a kind of a, I don't know exactly what they call it, but kind of that yodel feel,
Sure.
Where you go up and you're register and then you come back down and stuff like that. What was the premise, or where did that come from? Let me just say that.
Yeah. Probably deep down came from Hank Williams. Probably deeper down than that, for me, it came from Alan Jackson. Alan Jackson used to do this little thing in his song, hey, which actually I think came from like one of the Kershaw guys. Something I just heard and started I don't know, just something I do when I had too many whiskeys. It's just kind of like a little bit of a rebel yell,
but you get into the right spot, like especially you get into Louisiana and Alabama, that stuff really works. Even Mississippi, that stuff really works. Louisiana, I mean, I've got a dear friend that passed on that was from Louisiana, and man, he'd do that kind of stuff, and he would always, and I can't remember what it was. I actually used it in kind of an homage to him in a commercial where I did for a Cajun restaurant, where I did a Cajun accent and used one of the lines, and I can't remember exactly what it was in Cajun, but it was translated, "Let the good times roll."
Right.
and it kind of reminded me of that. It actually made me think of him when you did that, and I was like, I kind of had to fight back a little bit because Buddy was a real good friend of mine, and just an amazing fella, you know.
Yeah, and Alan, like I said, Alan Jackson would do it in some of his songs, and it wasn't until I got older and started listening to some of that Kershaw stuff when they would kick off with the fiddle, you know. But it's just kind of like that
Yeah.
chant, you know. It's a good time chant.
Right. It lets you know that it's about to go down.
That's right. That's right.
So if you could collaborate with anybody in the world, who would that be?
Right now, for my money, it'd be Jamie Johnson. And I know I didn't really list him as one of the influences, but he probably is a really, really big influence. Just like a traditional sound, great, great songs. Somebody that's really respected in the business. So yeah, it'd probably be Jamie Johnson, but I could list you, 5 guys. Chris Stapleton, obviously. There's some newer guys. I'm not sure if you're 49 Winchesters, which is some of the guys. They're incredible. They kind of you mentioned Steel Woods earlier, I think, or you mentioned Whiskey Myers, but 49 Winchester is kind of like, they remind me of somewhere between Steel Woods and Tyler Childers.
Yes.
But those, I saw them in Atlanta maybe 4 months ago. We've got a fairly small venue. It's called the Earl, and it holds maybe 200, 225 people. But if there's 225 people in there, if you grab your wallet, you're elbowing somebody in the stomach. But it's the venue that they play before they're at the big one. So anyway, but they're just, they're hot shit right now. The songs are hot. They've got them down packed.
Right. And now I've listened to some of their stuff, but I haven't got in depth to it because I've had several artists that have picked it up and kind of mentioned to me about them. So I've been able to listen to them some.
Yeah, they got that like Apple Tyler Childers, because I think they are Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky. They're somewhere around there, but they've got the band cohesiveness and the guitar sounds of like the Steel Woods. Which is kind of right at home for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's all great stuff. I mean, I'm excited. Whiskey Myers is coming to a town just south of us here, and actually a little less than a month. In August, and I'm super excited to see them live. It'll be the first time I've got to see them live, but man, I've burnt their stuff up. Let me tell you.
You mentioned earlier. So I didn't play it this last year, but I played it the last 2 years, which is Tennessee Motorcycle and Music Revival, and it's at Loretta Lynn's Ranch, which is just an hour west of Nashville. But the first year I went, Whiskey Myers and Steel Woods were both on the bill, and we were arm wrestling during the set breaks. We were fired up. We were fired up. We were taking the front gate, trying to get closer to the stage. We had a good time that night.
Right. Now, do you do a lot of festivals throughout the year?
As many as I can. Festivals are tough, and it's kind of another one of those things where, somebody booking would be a big help. But the other side is you got to get way ahead of those. I mean, if you're booking festivals, you almost got to be 9 or 10 months in advance because they're booking that far out, and it's hard sometimes. A lot of times I don't see the ones that I'd like to be a part of until we're 3 months out, and at best you're applying for the next year. So I would love to be a part of more. But I've only gotten to be a part of a few of them. Tennessee Motorcycle and Music Revival is a good one. Floyd Fest was a really cool one in Virginia that we got last year.
So, I mean, and you're right on that, and I'm finding that out that a lot of these festivals, you pretty much have to book them a year in advance. Even, like I said, 9 or 10 months out, some of those you can't even get on then. I've gotten to know about several over the last year, and it's just amazing. But there are so many good ones. You've got like the calf fry that's in Oklahoma at Tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
It's a good one. But they do, they focus a lot on their local stuff, but they do bring in some other folks, which is great. And I like the fact that they focus on the local stuff. I've got a couple of friends that played that stage this past year, and they just, man, when we talk, they just rave about how great it is. Um, I'm working with hopefully a festival up in Washington State coming up next year called Farm Jam. And I've been talking to the owner about maybe coming up there and maybe doing a stage under the name b4Nashville.
Okay.
And I have a buddy that does a podcast as well. So he's from that area. So we kind of talked about, maybe combining and see what we could do. And the guy asked me, he said, well, what kind of music are you looking at? And I said, well, it's going to be just like the podcast. I mean, it's going to be independent country artists that are unsigned, that are making waves in around their area and even a little bit beyond. I want them, if you've got a good reputation in your area, that makes it easier for you to have to get the gigs in other places.
Sure.
Because you got people that can refer you. And so we talked about that, and that may be something that happens next year. I don't know.
Well, if it does, put me on your short list.
Absolutely. It might be a couple of years down the road. Just depends on how much he charges me to do it.
Yeah, I get it.
But and then there's just a lot of stuff. I mean, that's going on with the festivals and stuff like that. And now, so I guess the one at Loretta's place would probably, from what I'm hearing, would that be like your top one that you really enjoy doing?
Yeah, well, so I'm a motorcycle guy too. So
Okay.
for me, it's kind of it's 2 or 3 birds with one stone. So it's a motorcycle and music event. So Harley Davidson's a part of it, or at least the local dealerships are a part of it. But the guys that put it on are great. They're in the Harley world, there's kind of this there's this old school events like Daytona and Sturgis, the really big events. But there's a crowd that's kind of dying out. But there's a younger crowd too that's interested, and I think Tennessee does a good job of kind of like Tennessee Motorcycle and Music Revival does a good job of trying to marry the two, because there are a lot of younger people that ride that want to get out and kind of want this nostalgic older school experience in terms of riding your bike in, getting out there and camping, bathing in the creek. So to me, it's a top event for sure to go to. That's one that I'd like to keep doing for a long time.
I've got a buddy over in Southern Illinois that owns a Harley dealership, and maybe I need to talk to him about maybe doing something over there.
Yeah.
Starting something like that. He owns a lot of property, so it's not like he couldn't do it somewhere. But I don't know of any creeks around. So, the bathing part, you might go 2 or 3 days without bathing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's just a suggestion, it's not a necessity.
You don't have to smell good to perform. Is that what you're telling me?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Funk came from something, so
right.
There's a whole genre around it.
Yeah, exactly. They got a whole bunch of music named after that, so it had to be something good in order to do that. So what is I was kind of looking over your tour earlier to kind of see where you were. I said that, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Where'd it go to?
So we're right around here right now. So I mentioned earlier that we just had our first. So I've been home for the past 6 weeks, kind of figuring out what fatherhood means and what it looks like.
Right.
But we're starting back. I've got some stuff around here, and I'll probably keep it somewhat close to home through the end of the year. Maybe do 1 or 2 weekends a month out of town. But so we're playing right around Atlanta through December, but I got a couple shows in North Carolina, and we're going out to Texas in October. We're going to be a part of a motorcycle show out there as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And some of the places I'm seeing, yeah, like you got let's see, coming up shortly, you got the Celtic Firehouse Pub. That's there in Marietta. You've got some places in around Atlanta and the Mill in Canton and
Hmm.
Woodstock, Georgia, not to be confused with Woodstock, New York, by the way.
That's right. That's right.
And then you're kind of, branching off into North Carolina, Iron Horse Motorcycle Lodge and places like that. I mean, I love that kind of stuff though, because it is so, it's not, eh, it's not what people think it is. When they think about a motorcycle rally, like Daytona
Yeah. Right.
or Sturgis or any of those, it's not a bunch of Hell's Angels rolling up, causing problems and stuff like that. It's always a fun time. I don't ride motorcycles. I ride a bicycle.
That's all right. That's what a motorcycle was before it was a motorcycle.
Right. I could probably borrow an electric bike and fake it, but I'm not wearing any colors, that's for sure. My wife and I have talked about getting a trike at some point, but that's about the best I can do. I tried riding motorcycles at one time, and it's like, no, not going to do it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I hope I see myself right here doing a return to your show, but saying how now I am getting that mailbox money that I was hoping for.
Hopefully in 5 years you're getting to come in through FedEx. It's not just mailbox.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would hope honestly in 5 years that I could tell you that I'm putting out another new album that I'm fixing, just like I'm doing right now, because I've been writing songs. I've been out playing music live, and it still means to me then what it means to me right now.
How many songs do you think you have in your stash at the moment?
Probably, I mean, I could cut another album now, but I don't keep, I'm not the guy that writes 100 songs and whittles it down to 12 for an album. I probably have 18 songs and whittles it down to 12, just because if I know it's going to be super garbage, then I don't write it. I leave it alone, and I leave that idea for something that I can come back to later. Yeah, I mean, I've hundreds of songs. I got a lot of them are just ideas, and then there's they're just nuggets of what will be a song later. But I try not to explore that until my mind's ready to explore that. And I know that sounds kind of hippy dippy-ish, but that's the truth. I try not to, and I think that's what keeps it real for me is not forcing that to happen. But also, I also know that sometimes songs have got to just be written.
Right. I love the idea of that though, because you can, like you said, you can have 100 songs put back in the cookie jar, so to speak. And the only problem with that is by the time you pull one out, it may have been one that you wrote early on and you go, man, I got to tweak this. So that does one of two things. It either changes the feel of the song or puts more work on you, or both. Because you got to go back and try to refigure, maybe it was a topic of a current, something feeling like things are right now. And then it's like, well, it doesn't feel that way anymore, but I can still use the third verse or something like that. I mean, I don't know. But I like how you don't have that, because the one thing that tells me is you're serious about your songwriting craft and you're not just having a fallback.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's important to me that that my songs mean something too. Now, granted, some of them are just fun songs, but it's important to me. I've always felt that any song that I've written and we perform, I should be able to go out and just play it with a guitar and it still have feeling in it. It doesn't need to be covered up with pedal steel or covered up with a lead electric guitar or anything else, and I've always felt that that I should be able to sit down and hold my own with that. To me, that's important as somebody that wants to make a living and to be frank, that will take somebody's money that will pay me to come out and play. I take that serious, that, well, hey, what I'm saying is something that I mean.
Right.
And it means so. Yeah, that's a big deal for me.
And the way you phrase that about taking somebody's money, that's why I kind of chuckled there a little bit. But it's true. I mean, if you're going out, that's what you're doing. But at the same time, you are winning new people to you. Now, I say that now, and one thing I want to say to folks listening is, if you haven't checked Cody out on TikTok or Instagram, or even on your DSPs and that kind of stuff, Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff, go check him out, because he's got some really, really good stuff out there. What I listened to today, catching up on some of it, I got a little bit deeper into what you had, where before I just kind of listened to the top 4 or 5 to see, kind of the sound. But man, I tell you what, you are, and just to remind you, after the show, Whiskey Blues will be put on our playlist. So make sure you go check out our playlist for Before Nashville, because we put all of our past artists on there, and it's getting to be quite big. But we are going to add your song to that, so that's an exciting thing. I love doing that kind of stuff. Your next show in looks like July 20th, and that's just a few days away. Matter of fact, this weekend, coming up in Marietta, Georgia. Now, the bulk of your shows, from what I'm seeing, they're not, and I might be wrong, and you can tell me if I am, they're primarily not ticketed shows.
Right. Yep. So, and I think I've got listed probably maybe into August there. I usually don't list anything much farther than that, because sometimes I'm things change and I'm adding to them. So we're playing. Yeah. But to be honest with you, we're playing a lot of bars. We're playing breweries. Not a lot of ticketed events. So you can come out and see us for free. You don't even have to tip us. We're still going to play the same songs anyway, whether you tip us or not. But I'm playing this Thursday. It's called McCracken's in Marietta. And then we've got a pretty busy week next week. There actually is a ticketed show on that. On Thursday night, we're playing Star Bar in Atlanta. And then we're playing another place in Atlanta, and then a couple Reformation breweries. So, but no, mostly not. Mostly you can come see us for free and throw tomatoes at us, or, whatever people are doing now when they don't like what they hear.
At the very least, even if you don't like it, buy them a shot. I mean, come on.
We will not turn that down.
Exactly. We'll take that before the tomato if it really
That's
comes
right.
down.
Yeah.
So Cody Bolden is his name. He's got some great music out there. If you don't believe me, then you just need to go to all the DSPs and check it out, because I've been listening to it. And as a matter of fact, I'll probably be listening to it a lot more to get a little bit deeper inside of that. But a lot of great music on there. And I tell you what, you have I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you responding to my message and saying, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And hanging out, and just sharing you. I mean, I want to thank your wife, because I know you said you just had a baby and all that. And I know taking you away from that is kind of rough. So give her my thanks, my apologies. And
yeah, Mr. Boy, I'll definitely pass it along.
So, but in the meantime, check Cody Bolden out, codybolden.com. You can go check him out and find out all about him, find out what he's about. One of the things I also like to encourage folks to do, and I did not look at it, and that's just because of I just hadn't had a chance. Go check out his merch as well. The two things that I like to push most for artists is streaming the songs, pre-saving them if it's a new song, and then their merch. So go check that stuff out. He's got some really cool stuff on there. The one with the coyote on it, I really like. The Raglan 3/4 length shirt, I really like that. So my wife may ask me, what'd you spend $30 for? But that's all right. I love you, honey, in case you're watching. She just might be. But Cody, keep us abreast on what's happening, man. Let us, anytime something's coming up, shoot me an email, let me know. And in the meantime, you folks go and check him out. All right. codybolden.com, or check him out on any of the the digital service providers as well. And we'll be back here with another episode coming up soon. You can check this one out on Spotify and all of your DSPs, and that'll be coming up very, very soon. Just give me some time to get some stuff done, and I'll get it up there. And we'll see you next week.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow b4Nashville on all social media and listen wherever you get your podcast. Tune in again for another country star of tomorrow on b4Nashville with George Davis. I'm Kevin Casey on behalf of Worldwide Pants. Have a great night.